Ever had one of those days where you wake up tired, drag yourself to a job you hate, scroll on your phone like it's a second career, then crawl back into bed with a vague sense that something is off? Yeah, that isn't burnout. That's just your soul silently screaming, "Get me the hell out of this ordinary life." You're not burnt out because you've been doing too much. You're burnt out because you've been doing too little of what matters. You want peace, but you've got notifications. You want joy, but you've got bills. You want freedom, but you're handcuffed to a job title and a 401k. That's not a life. That's a well-decorated prison. But here's the thing. You're not stuck. You're scared. Scared of giving up the illusion of success for the uncomfortable truth of who you are. And Robin Sharma knew that when he wrote this book. Robin Sharma, former high-flying litigation lawyer turned spiritual rock climber of the modern age. At the peak of his career, Sharma walked away from the corporate rat maze, traded Armani for robes, and wrote a fable that reads like a slap to the face of every overachiever lying to themselves. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari isn't just a book, it's a warning shot across the bow of your comfortable misery. The story follows Julian Mantle, a high-powered attorney who, after a heart attack in the middle of a courtroom, realizes that success without significance is just slow death in disguise. So what does he do? He sells his Ferrari, vanishes into the Himalayas, and comes back with secrets not just to live longer, but to live louder, deeper, and freer. Disclaimer: this content falls under the Fair Use Act. It's educational and adds commentary to original ideas. All rights belong to the author and publisher. Buy the damn book. This isn't some feel-good fluff. This is a blueprint. But fair warning, it won't hold your hand. It will grab your collar and drag you into the life you said you wanted but were too cowardly to chase. Welcome to Mindful Reads Hub. Let's get started. The collapse before the climb. You know what's worse than failing miserably? Succeeding at something that doesn't matter. And no, I'm not talking about your LinkedIn trophy wall or that shiny job title you use like a badge of honor. I'm talking about success that costs you everything, your health, your soul, your damn weekends, and gives you what? A panic attack in a Porsche. Meet Julian Mantle, high-powered lawyer, $3,000 suit, killer instinct in court. But here's the twist. The man who had it all dropped like a sack of legal briefs in the middle of a packed courtroom. Heart attack. Instant karma for a life that was all grind, no soul. We're so obsessed with the grind that we forget what it's grinding down. Our sanity, our joy, our bodies. Julian was the poster boy for winning at the wrong game. Power, prestige, performance, but at the cost of everything that made life worth living. And for what? A red Ferrari parked outside a life he hated? Let's be brutally honest here. How many of us are walking heart attacks just waiting to happen? You chase the clock, drink your third coffee by noon, scroll your life away between meaningless Zoom calls, and then wonder why your chest feels tight or why happiness feels like a vacation you can't afford. You've traded wonder for Wi-Fi. You've swapped sunsets for spreadsheets. Julian's collapse was the best damn thing that ever happened to him because it broke the illusion. He didn't just have a health scare, he had a soul scare. And while most people would have popped some pills and called it resilience, Julian disappeared. No note, no calls, just vanished. Sold a mansion, ditched the Rolex, and yes, kissed the Ferrari goodbye. That's not a midlife crisis. That's a spiritual jailbreak. But here's where it gets even better. This dude doesn't check into a spa or detox resort. He disappears into India, the kind of place that doesn't care who you are or how many commas are in your bank account. He wasn't looking for luxury, he was starving for truth. And when your life has been nothing but noise, sometimes silence is the loudest thing you can find. 3 years go by, and boom, he shows up again. But he's not Julian Mantle anymore. He's not even recognizable. Gone is the bloated, burnt-out legal junkie. In his place is someone glowing. Literally glowing, like he just bench pressed the sun and meditated under a waterfall. He walks in on his old friend, the narrator, who's still trapped in the same high-functioning hamster wheel Julian escaped from. And the contrast? It's painful. One is alive, the other is automated, and you, dear listener, have to ask yourself, which one are you? Julian isn't back to brag. He's back with a warning. because once you've tasted what real peace feels like, you can't unsee the chaos you left behind. He tells his friend, and us, that we're dying from the inside out, not because life is too short, but because we're making it meaningless by default. Let's talk about that moment of disbelief, because most of you won't believe it either, that someone can just walk away from the game and come back freer, happier, younger. Our culture doesn't sell that story. It sells Botox and burnout, not rebirth. So when Julian tells his friend he found peace by giving up the very things most people are killing themselves to gain, the reaction is predictable: suspicion, skepticism, denial. And then comes the teacup moment. Julian pours tea into a full cup until it overflows. Why? Because that's how most people live, with a mind so full of old beliefs, cynicism, and societal BS that there's no space left for transformation. If your mind is a hard drive filled with junk data, don't expect to run a new program. So here's the slap you in the face truth. Until you make room for a new way of thinking, you'll keep getting the same old results. That panic attack, that creeping emptiness, that's your wake-up call. Ignore it, and you'll find yourself on a hospital bed, wondering why all your effort brought you nothing but exhaustion. Julian's transformation is the metaphor most of us need, because deep down, we know we're not okay. We're sleepwalking in expensive shoes. We know we're meant for more than deadlines and dopamine hits, but we're cowards, afraid to give up a life we kinda hate for the chance to live one we'd actually love. You don't need a heart attack to change. You just need honesty. Brutal, unapologetic honesty about the story you've been telling yourself. That I'm too busy means I'm too scared. That success might actually be slowly killing you. That comfort is often just disguised regret. Julian found clarity in stillness. You're still trying to find it in productivity hacks and half-read self-help books. That's not growth. That's procrastination with better branding. So the question isn't, can you change? It's, will you? Will you stop chasing success that's slowly erasing your soul? Will you empty your cup or keep pouring nonsense into it until it spills into your life as stress, sickness, and sorrow? Because here's the thing, the fall isn't the failure. Staying down is. Key takeaway, real success isn't about achievement, it's about alignment. If you're winning in the world but losing inside, you're not winning. You're deteriorating in designer shoes. Favorite quote, sure I am that this day we are masters of our fate. As long as we have faith in our own cause and an unconquerable will to win, victory will not be denied us. Winston Churchill, Julian's office quote. Trading red for robes. There comes a moment where the mask doesn't just slip, it melts right off. And when it does, all you're left with is what you've been avoiding, yourself. Imagine staring into a mirror and not recognizing the person looking back. Not because you've aged, but because somewhere along the line, the hunger turned to hollowness. The game you were so busy playing, turns out it was rigged against you the whole time, and you knew it. You just didn't want to admit it until your body made the decision for you. Julian Mantle didn't walk into the Himalayas like some backpacking philosopher looking for a sunset to Instagram. He staggered in like a man trying to outrun his own obituary. Everything he thought gave his life value, the power, the status, the luxury cars, all got thrown into a bonfire built out of panic and desperation. He didn't sell his Ferrari because he hated cars. He sold it because it reminded him of a version of himself that almost killed him. That's the price of awakening. You don't trade materialism for mindfulness because it's trendy. You do it because the silence of your soul starts screaming louder than the applause of society. Julian didn't leave his life. He escaped it. And when he returned, he wasn't Julian anymore. He was something unrecognizable. He looked younger, yes, but it wasn't the skin. It was the stillness, the light behind the eyes. Like he had stopped aging because he stopped pretending. He didn't come back to show off. He came back to make a point, that the path to peace is paved with sacrifice, that to gain everything worth having, you have to burn everything that never mattered. You want clarity? Subtract more than you add. Julian found it in a remote Himalayan village that didn't even show up on a map. no luxury, no Wi-Fi, no distractions, just monks, nature, and unrelenting honesty. And somehow it was the most alive he'd ever felt. He was taken in by the sages of Savannah, not because he was special, but because he was empty enough to be filled. Let that sink in. It's not your resume that qualifies you for transformation. It's your willingness to let go of the ego long enough to learn. They didn't give him a 5-step plan to hustle harder. They didn't teach him how to monetize his mindset. They handed him a way of life that made ambition irrelevant and presence mandatory. These monks weren't broke. They were wealthy in ways we've forgotten how to measure, with laughter, health, peace, and meaning. They lived in a village built of roses, not metaphorical ones, real ones, a literal paradise built on stillness and simplicity. While you're here chasing validation through notifications, they're teaching discipline through silence. While you drown in schedules, they dance with serenity. But here's the truth you need to wrestle with. Julian's transformation wasn't the result of some magic mantra. It was work, ugly, ego-crushing, tear open your insides work. He had to unlearn everything he'd been taught about what makes a life successful. He had to go from Harvard-trained courtroom shark to barefoot student in a flower hut monastery, and he embraced it. Because once you realize that most of what you chase is killing you, surrender stops feeling like defeat and starts looking like salvation. And just when he thought he couldn't go deeper, the real teachers began to show up. Yogi Raman, the leader of the sages, wasn't some spaced-out mystic. He was razor-sharp, grounded, and had a calm that could split steel. And he didn't waste time. He laid it down. If Julian truly wanted to learn, if he truly wanted to shed the lies of his past life, he had to promise one thing: to return to the West and teach what he had learned. Not for profit, for purpose, because the world doesn't need more successful people. It needs more fulfilled ones, more awake ones, people who've stopped pretending that burnout is a badge of honor. Julian accepted, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. He wasn't just there to heal, he was there to prepare for a mission. What happened next wasn't an enlightenment montage. It was 3 months of total immersion, silence, study, sweat, unlearning, meditation before dawn, plant-based living, lessons on life that stripped him of excuses and handed him ancient truths with modern consequences. And somewhere in the middle of all that, he stopped being a man running from collapse and became a man built on clarity, a man who had seen hell in a hospital bed and found heaven in the Himalayas. So let me ask you, what are you clinging to? What's the Ferrari you're afraid to sell? What's the version of you that has to die so the real one can show up? Because if Julian's story teaches us anything, it's this: you can either chase more or become more, but you can't do both. Key takeaway: letting go isn't loss, it's liberation. Sometimes you have to burn the life you built to find the life you were born to live. Favorite quote: we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Cultivating the garden within. You know what's crazy? You'll spend $6 on a coffee, $600 on a phone, and $60,000 on a degree. But you won't spend 6 freaking minutes a day mastering the one thing you actually use every waking second: your mind. You treat your brain like a junk drawer, old regrets, future fears, random gossip, someone's opinion from 2009. It's all crammed in there next to half-baked goals and repressed dreams. Then you wonder why you can't sleep, can't focus, can't find meaning in anything. You're not broken, you're just cluttered. Julian knew this. That's why, after gaining the external glow-up from Savannah, he didn't stop with a change of wardrobe. He went for the upgrade that really matters: mental mastery. Because what's the point of a six-pack, a nice bank account, or spiritual buzzwords if your mind still functions like a newsfeed on fire? Let's get one thing straight. Your mind isn't some accidental side effect of biology. It's your control tower, your garden. And most of you, you've let weeds take over. You plant your fears, water them with worry, fertilize them with the news, and wonder why your peace is dead. You protect your passwords more than your thoughts. Julian breaks it down in the fable. The garden symbolizes your mind, and just like a real garden, it doesn't stay beautiful by accident. It needs intention, Discipline. You can't expect roses when all you feed it is poison. You can't pray for calm and then scroll through chaos. You can't want peace and keep dating drama. He talks about people dumping toxic waste into their mental soil. Worry, regret, comparison, negativity. And let's be honest, some of you are damn landfills. You ruminate like it's a job. You think the same 60,000 thoughts every single day. And guess what? 95% of them are the same ones from yesterday and the day before that. Most of them negative, most of them useless. You are recycling your own misery like an emotional hoarder. And if that's not enough to piss you off into change, here's the real punch. Every single moment you spend in that low-grade mental misery, you're training your brain to make it your default. You are literally programming yourself to be unhappy over and over. Then you go post some nonsense about manifesting abundance while your mindset screams poverty. That's not self-help. That's self-sabotage in a Pinterest font. Julian tells his friend, "You must stand guard at the gate of your mind like a damn warrior." You don't just hope for better thoughts. You plant them, you craft them, you weed out the weak ones, because if you don't, society will plant its own. And spoiler alert, they are not designed to set you free. They're designed to sell you things and keep you afraid. He lays out that mental mastery isn't optional. It's the foundation. The sages of Savannah were calm, not because they were born special, but because they trained their minds like a monk trains a sword. Every single day, no excuses, no exceptions. You want transformation, you need repetition, you want clarity, clean house, you want freedom. Earn it by disciplining your thoughts like your life depends on it. Because it actually does. The metaphor of the fable is clear. Your life is the garden, your purpose is the lighthouse, and your habits are the invisible hands tending both. The sumo wrestler? That's your commitment to growth. Constant improvement, Kaizen, not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. You think personal development is cheesy? Cool, enjoy mediocrity. Just don't act surprised when your life becomes the exact shape of your excuses. And just when you think it's about theory, Julian slaps down the practicality. He shares rituals, practices, tangible strategies, but at the core of it all is this truth. You must rebuild the most important relationship in your life, the one with your own damn mind. He emphasizes repetition, visualization, affirmation, guarding your inner garden with militant vigilance, because once your mind is clear, your path becomes obvious. Once you stop poisoning yourself with negativity, confidence isn't a strategy, it's a side effect. You want to change the world? Start by changing your headspace. You want more love, energy, peace, focus, clarity. Then start treating your thoughts like royalty instead of letting them be hijacked by every external impulse that comes along. And here's the kicker, none of this is new, but you're still not doing it. You've heard this before, but you're still living like your thoughts are wild animals instead of tools. You still wake up and consume before you create, react before you reflect. You still spend more time brushing your teeth than meditating, and you wonder why your spirit's got cavities. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your mindset. So fix that first, or you'll spend the rest of your life rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Key takeaway: the quality of your mind determines the quality of your life. Tend to it like the most sacred garden you've ever known, or prepare to live in the weeds. Favorite quote: "The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master." Igniting the inner flame. You say you want a better life, but your actions are sending mixed signals. You whisper about purpose between Netflix binges. You daydream about passion from behind a cubicle you've decorated like a hostage's cry for help. You've bought into the lie that ambition is enough, that as long as you've got goals and a Pinterest board full of quotes, you're on your way. But here's the truth you don't want to hear. Purpose isn't found, it's built, and you're either building it with discipline or destroying it with distraction. Julian didn't stumble into a life of meaning after meditating for 5 minutes on a mountaintop. He didn't chant a mantra and instantly become enlightened. He worked, mentally, spiritually, relentlessly. He built a life of fire by first burning down the hollow one he used to worship, and when he walked into that sacred temple in the Himalayas, he didn't just get peace, he got purpose. Not some vague feel-good sentiment, but clarity, strategy, fire. That fire started with understanding this. Your life is your responsibility. Every habit, every excuse, every soul-sucking choice, that's you. That's the garden you planted. And no, your boss isn't to blame. Your parents aren't to blame. The government, the algorithm, your childhood, not the enemy. The enemy is your passivity, your refusal to lead your own damn life. That's what Julian was taught in Savannah, that to lead others, hell, even to contribute something meaningful, you first have to lead yourself. And leading yourself doesn't mean just believing in yourself or posting motivational quotes once a week. It means learning the ancient art of self-leadership. It means doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching, especially then. They taught him about the power of rituals, small sacred acts that rewire the brain for excellence. They taught him to rise early, reflect deeply, and move intentionally. They drilled into his head that greatness isn't an event, it's a system. And most of you? You're hoping for a breakthrough while actively avoiding the boring, repeated work that creates one. Julian didn't just change his habits, he changed his identity. That's what kindling the inner fire means. It's not about motivation, it's about mastery. Motivation fades, mastery compounds. You want to feel inspired? Cool. That's temporary. You want to become unstoppable? That's structural. And structure requires sweat. You don't light your fire by waiting for someone to hand you a match. You light it by striking again and again against resistance. And if the spark doesn't catch the first 100 times, you try 101. Because you know what's worse than failing at your purpose? Never starting it. That's the real hell. Knowing you could have been more, done more, lived more, but settled for a life that looked fine on the outside while you died a little each year. The monks didn't hand Julian some cosmic cheat code. They gave him tools, exercises, the fundamentals. They showed him that consistency beats brilliance, that a tiny improvement each day doesn't just build progress, it builds identity, and your identity is the thermostat of your life. You don't rise above the level of your habits. You live exactly at the level of what you tolerate from yourself. And don't talk to me about passion if you haven't mastered presence. You're not burnt out. You're unlit. And staying unlit is your choice. You scroll when you should reflect. You complain when you should commit. You say, I'm tired, when what you really are is uninspired. Because people with purpose don't get stuck in excuses. They turn them into fuel. Julian didn't just learn how to focus, he learned what to focus on, and for the first time, he realized he was living for applause, not for alignment, that every deal he closed, every case he won, every luxury he collected was just noise, loud, impressive noise. But silence? That's where he met himself, that's where he remembered what mattered. So here's your choice, you either live by design or default. You either build a life that matches your spirit or get buried by one that doesn't. You can blame, delay, avoid, or you can wake up. You can start leading yourself because there's no guru coming, no miracle moment, just this. You, right now, deciding whether you'll keep playing small or finally step into the fire you were born to build. Key takeaway, purpose isn't stumbled upon, it's forged in discomfort, through discipline, under pressure. You want clarity? Start leading yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Favorite quote, enlightenment comes not through intellect, but through action and awareness. Discipline, the bridge to freedom. Let's get into it. Raw, ruthless, and real, as always. This time we dive into what might be the least sexy but most necessary truth in the entire damn book. People chase hacks and hustle, cry about burnout, and scream, I'm overwhelmed, like it's a personality trait. You know what's actually missing? Discipline. Not the military kind, not punishment. I'm talking about the kind of inner discipline that stops you from being a prisoner of your own laziness. The kind of discipline that builds freedom. That's right, freedom doesn't come from working less. It comes from controlling your impulses like your future depends on it, because it does. Julian learned that from the monks in Savannah the hard way. After they blew his mind with ideas about mastering thoughts and igniting purpose, they smacked him with the one thing he couldn't escape: action. All the wisdom in the world means jack if you don't do something with it. And guess what? Most people never do. Let's be honest. You already know what to do. You've read the books, you've watched the TED Talks, you've listened to enough podcasts to fill an entire monastery. But your problem isn't knowledge, it's consistency. You don't lack information, you lack discipline. That's what separates the monks from the mediocre. The sages taught Julian that every great life is built through tiny acts done daily with ruthless intent. They call it the virtue of discipline. It's not a motivational poster, it's a weapon. Discipline is showing up when you don't feel like it. It's doing the work when no one claps for you. It's becoming the kind of person whose habits build their destiny without needing a damn reminder from an app. Julian was handed tools, and one of the most powerful was the 10 ancient rituals. Each one a small act that, when done consistently, rewires your brain and reshapes your reality. You want transformation? Don't wait for inspiration. Build rituals, create systems, show up. There's this one teaching. The monks compare the mind to a monkey. And let's face it, your monkey is probably drunk and scrolling TikTok. That's why discipline matters. It tames the monkey. It silences the chaos. It sharpens the edge. You're not tired. You're undisciplined. You're not confused. You're unfocused. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to stop wasting the ones you've got. But here's the kicker. Discipline isn't about force. It's about love. You don't floss your teeth because you love dental hygiene. You do it because you don't want them falling out of your face. The same applies here. You train because you care. You write because you believe in your voice. You show up early because your purpose is too big to let procrastination lead. And let's not forget the elephant in the room. Time, the most precious commodity you have, the one thing you can't earn more of, the one resource you spend every day without realizing the price. Every "I'll do it later" is a lie you pay for in regret. Every hour wasted scrolling is a piece of your life you'll never get back. Julian was taught to guard time like treasure, to protect it, schedule it, and ruthlessly cut anything that doesn't serve it. That's why monks rise at 5 a.m. That's why they ritualize their days, because when you control your time, you control your life. Most people treat time like it's unlimited, but let's be clear, your clock is ticking. So what are you spending it on? Excuses? Netflix? Dead-end relationships? You say you want success, then show me your schedule, show me your calendar, show me your rituals, because that's where your future lives or dies. Discipline isn't just for productivity junkies. It's for warriors. It's for creators. It's for anyone sick of watching their life happen in autopilot while they sit in the passenger seat tweeting quotes about greatness. Get out of the car. Take the wheel. Burn the excuses. Start leading your day or be led by it. You are what you do when no one's watching. You are what you repeat when you're tired. You are the sum of your systems, not the dreams in your head. Julian got it. The monks lived it. The question is, will you finally stop pretending and actually live it too? Because here's the truth. Freedom costs discipline. And if you're not willing to pay that price, you better get comfortable with mediocrity. Key takeaway, discipline is the gateway drug to freedom. If you want a life most people dream of, do what most people are too lazy to repeat. Your rituals are your destiny. Favorite quote, wage war against the weaker self. Build the courage to act with discipline, even when comfort calls. The pursuit of purpose. Let's not sugarcoat it. This one is going to hit you in the gut. You've spent your entire adult life collecting things, titles, trophies, temporary highs. You stack promotions like they mean peace, buy distractions and call them comfort, and wear burnout like a badge of honor. But deep down, when the noise quiets and the likes stop coming, something gnaws at you. A tiny whisper that says, this isn't it. And you silence it with another scroll, another purchase, another plan to figure it out later. That whisper, that's your purpose, suffocating under your performance. Julian didn't fly halfway across the planet, ditch luxury, and sit under a banyan tree for an Instagram detox. He did it because his life was a lie, a performance so well rehearsed even he started to believe it, until he collapsed, until life slapped him so hard he finally listened. And when the sages of Savannah taught him about purpose, they didn't give him a slogan, They gave him a system, a brutal, clear, direct reckoning with everything most people run from. You don't drift into a meaningful life. You choose it, you commit to it, and you give up everything that doesn't serve it. Julian learned that your purpose isn't found like some lost sock behind the dryer. It's built, one moment, one decision, one brutal act of self-honesty at a time. If your daily actions don't align with what matters most to you, you're not busy, you're distracted. Your calendar is not a reflection of your priorities, it's a reflection of your excuses. The monks called it dharma, not just purpose, but sacred duty, your reason for being. And if you're not pursuing it, you're not living. You're just existing in a loop of distraction and decay. They taught Julian to ask the only question that matters. Why am I here? And most of you don't have a clue, because you've been too busy chasing things you thought would fill the hole, only to discover the hole gets bigger the more you feed it. Purpose is not a Pinterest vision board. It's not a job title. It's not some vague passion project you might get to when life slows down. It is the fire in your belly that makes mediocrity unbearable. It's the standard that makes shortcuts unacceptable. It's the clarity that makes saying no to nonsense non-negotiable. Julian discovered that once you find your dharma, everything changes. Energy returns, focus sharpens, time expands. You stop tolerating what doesn't align. You stop apologizing for needing silence. You stop living small just to make other people comfortable. But here's the uncomfortable part. To step into purpose, you must walk away from comfort. You have to kill the version of you that's addicted to approval, that clings to safety, that avoids the discomfort of growth. And most of you, you're not tired. You're purpose-starved. You've been trading meaning for money, depth for dopamine, legacy for likes. The monks shared one final truth with Julian. Happiness isn't something you chase. It's what happens when you align your life with what you were built to do. It's the byproduct of living on purpose, not the prize at the end of a productivity race. Julian came back to share this, not because it's poetic, but because it's urgent. Every day you drift from your dharma, you lose a little more of yourself. Every day you say yes to what doesn't matter, you say no to what does. Every day you postpone your purpose, you trade potential for mediocrity. So here's the hard ask. What are you doing with your life? No, really. Don't tell me what your job is. Don't tell me what your resume says. Tell me what you stand for. Tell me what you're building. Tell me what you do if you weren't scared of what people think. Because if you don't know why you're here, someone else will use you for their plan. You'll live their dream, follow their script, die with your story untold. And I don't care how many vacations you take or how many nice things you collect. If you don't find and live your purpose, it will all feel hollow. Because nothing outside of you can fix what's missing inside of you. Key takeaway, purpose isn't something you find. It's something you build by subtracting distraction, facing your truth, and aligning your entire life with what actually matters. No more waiting. Choose it now, or live someone else's life forever. Favorite quote, happiness is a journey, not a destination. Live for today. There will never be another one quite like it. Walking the path of diamonds. Here's what you came for. The final act, the grand finale, the slap in the face wrapped in a bow, the one that pulls no punches and leaves no space for your excuses to hide behind affirmations. Let's finish this the way we started, loud, honest, and absolutely necessary. You keep thinking the finish line is out there, some mountaintop moment where everything finally makes sense, the noise fades, and your life magically clicks into place like a guided meditation narrated by Morgan Freeman. But that's not how this works. There is no final summit. There's no end to arrive at. Enlightenment, real peace, real purpose, isn't a destination. It's a decision, made daily, repeated relentlessly, practiced when you're tired, when you're tested, when no one's clapping. Julian didn't come back from the Himalayas to say, I've made it. He came back to say, this path never ends, but it's the only one worth walking. That's what the sages of Savannah called the path of diamonds. Not because it's sparkly, not because it's rare, but because it's forged under pressure. Pressure from life, from failure, from self-doubt. Pressure that doesn't crush you, but sculpts you. If you're brave enough to stay on the path, most people, they quit, they backslide, they treat transformation like a weekend project or a 30-day reset challenge. Then they wonder why they keep ending up in the same damn loop. But the path of diamonds doesn't reward dabblers. It rewards devotion. It rewards the ones who show up after the excitement fades, when discipline is the only thing left holding them upright. Julian passed on every lesson he was given, not as a checklist, but as a way of being, a framework that only works if you do. Master your mind, follow your purpose, exercise discipline, nourish your body, embrace stillness, live with intention, guard your time, serve others, and above all, practice. Practice like your life depends on it, because it does. You want a happy life? Cool. Start by killing everything in your life that makes you miserable. Your toxic job, your 4-hour scrolling marathons, your excuses masked as priorities. Joy isn't an outcome, it's a consequence, a side effect of living in alignment with what actually matters. The final teaching Julian shares isn't glamorous. It's not sexy, it's simple. And that's what makes it hard. Most people aren't looking for truth. They're looking for a shortcut dressed up as a lifestyle. But truth doesn't entertain. It empties. It strips away all the lies you've used to justify your comfort. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. That's where real growth begins. He says something simple. Never forget to live your life. Not just survive it. Not just build it around productivity or pride or performance, but to actually live. To wake up with purpose and go to sleep with peace. To trade in the addiction to achievement for the daily discipline of presence. To stop waiting for a perfect moment and realize the path itself, the path you've been walking, stumbling, cursing, is the point. And that path, it's not linear, it's not clean, but it's yours. And every step you take with intention puts a crack in the prison of autopilot that most people never escape. So here we are, full circle. You started this thinking you were going to hear a nice little story about a guy who sold his Ferrari. What you actually got was a mirror. One that reflects every excuse, every wasted hour, every moment of potential you've pretended was procrastination. Now the question is simple. Will you keep pretending, or will you finally pick up the map and start walking? Key takeaway. The real journey isn't towards success, it's into yourself. Enlightenment isn't found, it's walked every day. And if you're not walking it, you're just waiting to die with your dreams still in draft mode. Favorite quote. Life doesn't always give you what you ask for, but it always gives you what you need. That's it. You've got the blueprint. You've heard the call. Now you either step up or stay stuck. Your move. Conclusion. So what did we learn from a man who sold his Ferrari? We learned that everything you're chasing, the salary, the status, the seductive dream of someday, is a cheap trade for your peace. That most people spend their lives sprinting toward goals that don't even belong to them. That we confuse burnout with ambition and noise with purpose. And by the time we realize we were chasing the wrong things, the price is already paid. In health, happiness, and time we'll never get back. Julian Mantle isn't just a character. He's a mirror. He's what happens when you finally hit the wall you've been pretending isn't coming. And this book isn't a fairy tale. It's a dare. A dare to stop lying to yourself. A dare to put down your distractions and pick up your destiny. A dare to stop talking about change and start becoming the kind of person you swore you'd be before life wore you down. But here's the part you don't want to hear. This story isn't finished. Because it's not about Julian anymore. It's about you, your routine, your rituals, your integrity when no one's watching. Are you going to keep running on the treadmill of more? Or are you finally going to build a life that actually means something? That's the challenge. That's the test. That's the path of diamonds. And if this breakdown did anything, if it lit a spark, if it made you uncomfortable, if it stirred something in your gut, then do the one thing that matters most right now. Buy the book. Don't just listen to summaries and regurgitate quotes like you're wise by proxy. Own it, study it, live it. The monk who sold his Ferrari isn't just a read, it's a reckoning. And if you've got even a flicker of courage left in you, you owe it to yourself to finish what this story started. So yeah, hit like if you've ever lied to yourself. Subscribe if you're done doing it. Share this with the friend who's still playing small. And most importantly, start walking the path. You don't need another plan. You need to get honest, get focused, and get out of your own damn way. You were never meant to just survive. You were meant to set fire to the script and write your own legend. See you on the path. Or don't. Your choice.